Hi everyone, welcome to season 2, episode 14 of Photography Chat. We're going to have AJ Holmes on here. We're just going to get him invited into the chat and we can kick it off here. Hope everyone's having a good week. What's up, Michael? How you doing? All right. Hopefully AJ pops in here. There he is. All right, let's invite him into the video. Hello.
Hey,
How's it going?
all right, how are you?
Oh, just living the dream.
Nice. I'm gonna try and pop in some headphones here, see if I can hear you a little bit better.
Sure thing.
All right, I am like super not tech savvy. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Killer.
Good and clear.
All right, I shoot 8x10 film, so,
And
and
I love those sample photos that you sent. They're beautiful.
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's 8 by 10. I haven't made the leap yet into 8 by 10, but that's probably in the next few months. I'm hoping to make that jump into 8 by 10.
It is, I don't know, it's like really easy for me to get super nostalgic about the process, but there's nothing like it for me. I mean, I love shooting my 4x5 cameras. It's a lot of fun, and there's certainly more films available in 4x5, more readily available, I should say. But and the expensive 8x10 is pretty great, but there's just nothing like it.
Yeah, I imagine like the cost per shot has to be pretty substantial on 8 by 10, eh?
Yeah, it can be. I mostly shoot 8x10 Portra 400, which is the better part of $20 to $22 a sheet for the film.
Oh shit. Before process, that's just like raw film.
That's US dollars before processing, before scanning, 22 US dollars a sheet.
I don't know what I'm getting into wanting to buy an 8 by 10 right now.
No, I mean honestly, yeah, and they're like every day I wish I liked black and white film more. Um, that said, I am convincing myself to like it. Um,
Okay.
because it's like I also, for me, there are certain moments that make sense to be in color and others that make sense to be black and white. And I try not to force one all the time.
Yeah.
And it's convenient when a moment makes sense in black and white because it's a quarter of the cost.
Yeah, I've been trying, well, not, I've been making more of an effort to just even in my 35 millimeter practice, shoot a bit more black and white.
Hmm.
Because I started challenging myself on my Instagram feed to alternate between 3 color and 3 black and white. So I was just like, I need to start shooting more black and white because like most of what I have is all color. Um,
Yeah,
that's like helped me create more black and white.
right.
Um, I still like shooting color so much more.
Yeah, it's really tough because, like, for me, I've been meaning to buy more 8x10 film holders for the better part of a year. And there's been, like having to pay rents and utilities and put gas in your car and buy film. It's like, how do how do you find the time or resources to buy another 5 or 10 8x10 film holders? But I've gotten to the point where it's like, no, I just really need to because I have 5 of them. So I can have 10 sheets loaded at once. And I get really torn because it's like I want to shoot black and white, but I also want to shoot color. At the same time, I can only load 10 sheets. Um, it's I have found though, like in recent developing and then scans that have been done of some of my recent work, I'm warming back up to black and white. And for the first time in probably a decade, I'm shooting HP5 again. Um, HP5 and 8x10 is not the same as HP5 and 120. And I know there are the same, I think your thought process is so different on a view camera that you're naturally going to elicit a different result.
Okay.
But there's just something so unique about some of the files I've been working with, and I don't know. So I think I will start to do more black and white, but then at the same time, I'm torn because the three bodies of work I've been working on are exclusively large format color film. So I'm kind of stuck there,
Yeah.
in a way. So I guess I'll just, for future work, I'm going to keep black and white more top of mind, I think.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, so just to sort of do a quick intro for people that like popped on and not familiar with you, maybe just
Yeah,
tell them a little bit about yourself.
sure. Well, first off, thanks for scheduling this and reaching out. I think we met on Clubhouse, which
That's
is,
right. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely awesome platform. But yeah, for many of you who've probably never heard my name before, my name's AJ Holmes. I'm a film photographer originally from about an hour south of Nashville, Tennessee, in the U.S. Now I'm based in Ventura County, California, about an hour north of LA. I've been shooting film since December 2006. I've been asking for a film camera for a couple years, and my folks bought me one. Well, I've been asking for a camera for a couple years, and they bought me a film camera in 2006, one of the last new Canon film cameras made. And we're just hell-bent that if I wanted to be a photographer, I would shoot film.
Yeah.
I like butterfly effect. So many things have happened since then, but had that not happened, I probably wouldn't be on this call right now. And anyways, never really stuck with film super hardcore until I went to university for photography. And 2014 through 2016, I got my bachelor's degree in photography, and really just went head over heels for all things medium and large format. Fast forward to today, the more recent part of my introduction would be that about 2 years ago, I helped to co-found a company called Negative Supply. We design, manufacture, and retail and wholesale film scanning equipment for all formats, 35 millimeter through 8x10.
That's awesome.
It definitely keeps me busy, and that's probably the main reason why I haven't shared more work the last few months. I have so much that's been processed and a lot that's been scanned, but I stay pretty busy day to day, so hoping to share more
Whoa.
soon.
Holy shit. So this is a moment for me here.
Yeah,
Kodak just joined us.
awesome. That's
What's up, Kodak?
amazing.
Hey, look, and I'm wearing like
That's great.
my Kodak girl shirt.
That is so good.
Wow, that's holy shit. I just need a minute for that.
Yeah,
Cool.
naturally. And let's see, I don't know if I can tilt this up, but all my Kodak Portra boxes above my head. Um, yeah,
Thank you for
mega
joining us,
fan.
Kodak. I kind of have Kodak in here. It's Cinestill 50D, so it's like Kodak
That
big.
counts.
It counts, right?
That's so awesome.
Yeah, that's wild. Thank you for joining us, Kodak. Um,
Yeah,
if you want to sponsor the photo chat at some time, slide in my DMs. That'd be cool.
that's so good.
A little bit obsessed. Yeah,
A little bit, yeah, at least a little bit.
I've packed most of my stuff, but I have like 4 or 5 Kodak shirts, and then like in my office here, where I gotta spin the camera around, I've got some stickers up on here. So I got the Eastman 5247 because that's where all of our favorite childhood dreams come from, and the Kodak
That's awesome.
is shout out to Rochester, and then like
Yeah.
word to Biggie up there. That's cool. Yeah. So how did you get into large format though?
um, yeah, it was about almost 7 years ago now. I was at Middle Tennessee State University, and I was getting ready for a road trip that I was going to be taking with a friend, and I kind of got into large format a couple times over a year or two, and then it eventually stuck. But I'd gone on this road trip, and I shot only medium format film, well, some 35, but mostly medium format with that Pentax 6x7.
Nice.
Great camera. And, I came back and I was looking at all the negatives. I processed them in the darkroom at school. And one of our professors, he kind of walked by one day when I was in one of the hallways on a light table looking at 40 or 50 rolls of film. And he took a loop out and was looking at some of the images and, basically to the effect of, these are great, but you should have taken a 4x5.
Oh.
And, he asked me, he said, come by my office sometime the next couple days and let's see what we can kind of dig up for you to use. And I, went by his office that week, and he had a Toyo folding 4x5 camera, multiple lenses, film holders, cable release, a bag, focusing cloth, a loop, everything you needed to get started. And he's like, more or less, you've got to do this. You got to try this. And that kind of nudge to try something new, something that I told myself for years I would never do, but it coming from someone I respected as much as I did, and I didn't think twice about it. I still remember the first photo I made with the camera. It was a portrait of my grandmother with expired, I think it was Delta 100 4x5. The sharpness of that image, the just quality, the gravity of a large format photograph. Like for the first one I'd ever taken, wasn't, it's not an award-winning portrait by any means, but I was instantly hooked. And the next week I don't know, I was ordering Portra 400 and Tri-X and everything I could get my hands on, and shooting as much of it as I could. And now that was the better part of 7 years ago, and I've probably shot between 4x5 and 8x10 a couple thousand sheets of film, mostly color. And I've taken the 4x5 and now the 8x10, but more so the 4x5 to over 40 states in the U.S. and just have tons of work that I'm still working on, developing, scanning. Most everything's developed. I'm really trying to scan everything and edit everything and figure out what I'm saying with a lot of it, but hundreds of things to share.
That's amazing. Jeffrey had a question here. When you develop
Yeah.
your 8x10 film, how many sheets do you normally develop at a time?
That's a great question. So I don't actually develop my own 8x10 right now. And this is a really, I guess, great opportunity for me to say Mark Sperry at Northeast Photographic develops all of my sheet film right now. I don't have a Jobo at the Negative Supply headquarters, but when I was still in school, I did all my own 4x5 with a Jobo CPP2 and an Expert Drum 3010. And for 4x5 with that drum, you can do, as the last two digits in the tank would suggest, 10 sheets at a time, which is pretty killer. And then for 8x10, I was using, we had Jobo 3005 drums, which you can do 5 sheets at a time, which is pretty killer when you look at most modern alternatives for 8x10. But I'm pretty sure Mark at Northeast Photographic is using some sort of an automated Jobo system. But, for example, you can do 5 sheets at a time, but I was away from the Negative Supply office most of December, all of January, and all of February, working remotely because of COVID, and also trying to work on a long-term body of work photographing my parents and their family home. And, I think about a month ago, I sent Mark over 90 sheets that needed to be processed. And I have like another 200 that need to go. But I'm not in any huge rush because the amount of time it takes to work through even 5 large format files is tremendous. So, but yeah, if you are looking for maybe not the easiest or least expensive way to develop 8x10, but certainly the most convenient in a home setting, it's a Jobo with a 3005 drum. Uh, bar none, it's the best option.
Nice. Good to
Mm-hmm.
know. I've not gotten into doing large format processing at home yet. Um, I did buy recently at the recommendation of Dave Rollins. Um,
Dave's great.
yeah, Dave. I love Dave. Dave's one
Yeah,
of my
he's
favorite
awesome.
people ever, and one of my all-time favorite photos ever taken of me is one that Dave took when I met him in Denton, Texas, in 2019.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like he shot it on his Graflex with the Aero Ektar, and
It's iconic.
those Aero Ektars, I there's very few things I have like envy over, but the Aero Ektars are one that they definitely have a little bit of envy because like Dave was rolling around with his Graflex with one, and then Armand at the Denton Camera Exchange, he had one on a Crown Graphic.
Nice.
But, you know, I have a picture of him taking a picture of me with this like massive Aero Ektar on his 4x5, and
They're awesome. Yeah.
it's beautiful, but not quite there yet.
It's that's like one of the few because I primarily do portraits with both 4x5 and 8x10. It's one of the few lenses like in the portrait world that I haven't really used for 4x5 yet, and I'd love to one day. But I was going to mention as well, you said you haven't gotten into processing sheet film at home, but the Mod 5.4 adapter for the Patterson tanks is
So
it's so cool.
I had a mod, or I used a Mod 5.4 at the gallery that I'm part of, and
Yeah,
it made me want to never process my film because it kept popping off, and like I would like have my sheets would be like stuck to the side of the tank and stuff.
yeah,
But Dave recommended that I buy a bees reel.
yeah, those are cool too.
So I picked one up, but I haven't had a chance because I'm in the process of like packing up and moving my life to the West Coast right now. So
Oh
um,
yeah,
yeah,
whereabouts?
I'm moving to Vancouver at the end of the month.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
But it's like on my sort of radar before I finish packing up and moving to like try the bees reel out because I'd like to load up all of my 4x5 holders and like shoot some 4x5 as I make my way across the country.
Oh yeah, that is something I've like. So even though I'm from Tennessee and I'm in California now, it's about 2,000 miles each way home. Um, I usually drive when I go back home because even though it takes a few days to do it, you see so much countryside, and I'll usually load 10 or 12 4x5 holders, and yeah, no, there's it's so much fun to do that. So I hope you can take the time and you are able to shoot some 4x5. Are you, I guess, driving across?
Yeah, so when I moved here in 2017, I just like rented a U-Haul trailer and towed it behind my station wagon, and I'm going to be doing the same thing on the way back. Um,
Okay.
Unfortunately, I hadn't started shooting until I moved to Toronto in 2017, so like I didn't have much to document like my first drive across the country other than like some shitty iPhone stuff and
Sure.
some shots that my friend took with his Olympus digital that drove with me. So I'm going to be taking it fairly easy on this trip because I'm also doing it by myself, so I don't want to like burn myself out or anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have the 4x5 in the car, the Polaroid 195, a few other Polaroids. I just traded my Nikon F3 kit for a GW 690 and a Zorky S. And the Zorky was kind of more like an interesting curiosity, but I'd always wanted a Texas Leica, and
Yeah.
It's
They're
pretty
great.
fast. I'm blown away.
Yeah, look, those are awesome. I'm a big fan of 6x7, and so I had the GW 672
Okay.
instead of the GW 690, and that's another one of those cameras. It's an interesting phenomenon right now, but everything is getting more expensive, and like crazy more expensive, multiple times more expensive, and um, I think I paid like $400 for my GW 670, and they're like 1,600, 2,000 now.
It's
Um,
insane. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to buy another one. I was looking to buy one recently, and I thought, no, I'm going to keep investing into large format gear. Um, I couldn't believe, I mean, just how it's wild how expensive some of this stuff has gotten.
It is pretty mental. Like I do have an 8x10 lined up. Like Armand's hanging on to an 8x10 field camera for me. That I'll probably
Awesome.
pick up in a few months. But one of the things that I really wanted to do with 8x10 um, is do 8x10 Polaroids.
Yeah.
And finding a processor that doesn't cost a freaking mint is damn near impossible. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it kind of speaks to one of the problems that really exists across the industry now, because it's like, okay, you can get 8x10 Polaroid film these days, but to my knowledge, is anyone making a new modern manual processor?
no, no one's making a new processor. There is someone making new holders.
Right, and that's awesome. That's another piece of the puzzle, but like the issue it brings up for me, it's like, I remember a decade ago when I was really trying to get back into shooting film, really, I guess it was 8 or 9 years ago now. There was this fight to keep film alive. It felt like that. It felt like an actual war.
Yeah.
Um, Kodak is pushing Portra 400 and Portra 160 and 800 into the wedding market, really trying to push into commercial portraiture and commercial wedding work, and they did so with huge success. Tri-X, all these things like really started to take off and had some new relevance. The cinema industry obviously was really what kind of carried the baton, I guess.
Yeah.
But now I look at, okay, film's here to stay. That's pretty clear. It seems like Kodak and Ilford can't make enough of the stuff. All the while, Fuji seems to be sprinting away for reasons unbeknownst to
Uh,
me, because they
yeah,
make incredible stuff.
sure. I mean, I'll save my opinions for Fuji.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have a few as well. I'm looking at a Pro Pack of 400H here. Um, so yeah, for
One,
sure.
like
But
I love shooting FP100. Like that's
mhm,
what I mainly shoot in my 4x5 is FP100. And
yeah, it's great.
every time I open up another pack of it, I just hate Fuji that much more.
Well, I mean, I tell you, like the most recent example for me, I love Ektachrome in
Yeah.
35 millimeter. It's great. But I had this thought the other day. I'm like, I want to get some Provia 100 in 35 millimeter, and I went to add a few rolls to the shopping cart, and then it's like, no, don't do that. Like, I don't want to start to love another film that is going to be just torn out of my hands with no notice.
Right? Well, that's
So,
the thing. Like Fuji's like, oh, I see that you like this product. We're gonna stop selling it.
yeah, but it's like, I see that you like this product. Oh, and also, it's incredibly lucrative, and every commercial photographer on earth shoots a ton of it. But, oh well, yanks it off their product line.
Like Tim's comment here is great. Fuji puts the FU in film.
No, no, that's good. That's so good.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know. Like them killing pack film was like the most unforgivable thing for me. And then like
hmm
I got I got into the 400H thing. I love 400. It's great. And then like that was a huge bummer. Superior 1600. I
Yeah.
was super bummed that they killed that one. Like
Yeah, that one was sad. And then like another more recent one, it's like when they got rid of Acros 100, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
You know, well, that was really unfortunate because that film had basically no reciprocity correction out in 2 minutes. So I would use it for long exposure work at night, in certain like creative applications, and there's nothing like it. And when they got rid of it, it was obviously awful. And then now you have Acros 2, which I question if Fuji's even the ones making that. But they're not making it in sheet film. So you used to be able to get Acros all the way up to 8x10. And
Yeah, I've got some Acros Ready Load 4x5 sheets still.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's probably worth a pretty good bit of money now. But yeah, I would love to buy Acros 102 in 8x10, but I can't because it's not available, and I'm sure it never will be. So, the next best thing is I'm shooting Ilford Delta 100 in 8x10, and it's a beautiful product. I'm glad it still exists.
Yeah.
It's like, Fuji had incredibly unique products that truly no one else could replicate or just didn't replicate. And it's gone. But, I mean, so you got to be grateful for what's there, I guess.
That's very true. Um, yeah, like I'm kind of stoked though that I managed to find someone here that has a Polaroid 8x10 processor that they don't want a arm and a leg for. So
That's
before I go to
awesome.
Toronto, I'm going to be picking that up. Because it'd be cool just to play with that kind of stuff. You got Brian's X-ray film. I've heard of like some really cool, like, so Sarah, who I interviewed last week, I think I mixed up on all the times, but I talked to her recently, and she was playing with some Polaroid X-ray film, which
Yeah,
was just wild. I didn't realize Polaroid made 8x10 X-ray film. Like, so
they
crazy.
did. Yeah. I mean, it's fun stuff. I mean, another thing too that's really a lot of fun is shooting paper negatives. I mean, I used to do that a lot, and then with an 8x10 holder, you literally just slide a sheet of 8x10 paper into the holder. And you can load it with a safe light on. It's such a friendly way to start shooting large format film.
So do you shoot that as a negative and then?
And what I've always done is I've gone and then contact printed it.
Oh,
Yeah, which is another process, but it's a lot of fun. And then you just develop it like you would paper in a darkroom, and you can have a safe light on the whole time. Um, yeah, it's a fun process, and it's really the main reason why I was shooting paper negatives the last time I did it was to check for light leaks and really make sure everything was working properly on the camera,
hmm.
without burning through super expensive film.
That's an interesting point because like I have a shit ton of 8x10 paper that I bought recently because there was a dude that he was selling a bunch of Portra black and white photo paper and some like other ones, and like I think it's been quite a while since Kodak has made photo paper, so
It's
it's
been a minute. Yeah.
yes, but I got some really interesting results from some old Agfa black and white paper that I really like. So I was like, maybe this Kodak will be just as like janky and interesting too. So yeah, it'd be cool to play with that in 8x10. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, it's just another thing to try. I actually got some pretty cool results with it. I think you rated around ISO 6, so definitely,
Lots.
uh, yeah, definitely on a tripod and no wind, and you need to have some time, but you can get beautiful results out of it.
Or if you're doing portraits, you could do it like tintype style, where you just put the strobes like right up on the subject and just
Yeah,
the shit out of
no, I've done that. I did that with when I was still at school. We had pro photos and 2400 watt second packs, and that's a quick way to expose, ISO 6 paper negatives. And Mitch, yes, I see your comment there about using RC paper. You're absolutely right. The last time I shot paper negatives, I didn't have RC paper. I just had fiber base, and it worked fine. I felt like a little more resistance actually sliding it into the holder.
Okay.
I guess it's a little bit thicker and has a bit more of a tooth to it,
Mm.
but it worked, although RC would have been better for that application.
So when you do the contact, you just put a blank sheet like just on top of the one that you exposed, and
Yeah, and I've only done it like twice, but the last time I did it, yeah, I mean, that's what I did. And it's been 5, 6 years since I've done that, I guess. But, and I used to really more so contact print color 4x5 in the RA4 darkroom. And I really loved that process. I was hoping I had that portfolio box here, but I don't. It's back at my apartment, and I'm at the office right now. But the cool thing about contact printing 4x5 work is that everything outside of that image area, when I was doing RA4 contacts, goes black. So I would contact print a 4x5 negative onto 8x10 paper. You have this huge black frame.
oh,
Um,
cool.
it's really cool. And then you can put like a white mat over it, and you have this white and then black and then the photo.
Dang, you're giving me all sorts of ideas to fuck with. Like,
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
damn, that's neat. Man, like I'm thinking of all these things to do with like large format adventures once well just even with the 4x5 because I could like just get some 4x5 paper and then try out that 8x10 trick. And I
Yeah.
like that idea of being able to just use the dark light to load it because I hate doing stuff in the dark.
Yeah, it's like truly one of the friendliest ways to warm up to the process. But I'll say, you know, the first couple times you load 4x5 film, whether it's in a changing tent or a changing bag or, a bathroom with the lights off and a towel stuffed under the door, because I've done all of those. Once you've done that a time or two, you almost don't even have to think about it. And I think that's the same, I guess that same truth is valid for so many things in film photography, but in particular large format photography. It feels really intimidating, really daunting, complicated, cumbersome, expensive, whatever. The expense is something that I guess doesn't really fade. But all the other things you can work around and you get used to, you adapt to. And it really just becomes second nature if you stick with it and you make it a primary part of your workflow. Because it's the same, like for me now with 8x10, I like thinking about loading holders and what lenses and things to use. All that is super easy now. It's just more of focusing what's on the ground glass and
Okay,
really working with your subject.
nice.
Very little interruption. Yeah.
Tim brought up an interesting memory here. So PolaCon 2018, it was the first PolaCon I went to in Denton, Texas, and Ian Kasnoff was there, and he was showing off his trailer camera. Like he had this
Oh
like
my
full
gosh.
on like it was a car trailer that he had converted into a camera, and like I think just a little over half of it was the camera, and then the other half of it was a darkroom. And
That's incredible.
for him to like frame and focus, he would literally have to like drive his truck backwards and forwards, move it around.
Oh no.
How he did focusing and stuff, and then he could do some fine focus with the ground glass because he had this huge, like it was a massive, like on a wooden frame ground glass that he could move inside of the camera, and so that's where he would sort of do like the finer focus. And
That's awesome.
it was an industrial process lens, and it was like that big around. Like it was just this mighty lens just sticking out of the back of this trailer. It was so wild, and he's like, it's basically like an instant photo because he had it down to where once he was all in focus and everything, he could go from exposure to print in like just about 3 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive. What size is it? Like 30 by 40 inches or so?
Yeah, I think that they were huge. Like
Yeah.
it was funny because I have a 35 mil shot somewhere of like a little pack film shot that someone took of this motorcycle, and he's holding up this little pack film shot next to like the huge like ultra large format shot he took of the same motorcycle.
That's
And
awesome.
it was wild. Like he was that was an interesting thing to see that. And he said like the first trailer camera he tried to make was like with a tiny utility trailer with like a little enlarger lens, and he said that was like he was like dying from the heat inside of this little tiny wooden box, and was like, yeah, this is, I need to go bigger. So like I think it was like all air conditioned and everything too. Like it was quite the setup.
That's one hell of a project. I mean, yeah, that's awesome. A dark room on wheels and a camera on wheels.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I
I'm
think
pretty
he got
jealous of that.
hired. I think he got hired by your guys' parks department to like shoot a bunch of like parks with the camera.
Yeah, okay. I think I know who you're talking about then.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. Dream job for sure.
yeah, he was a really cool cat. Like that was I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go to a PolaCon, but I highly recommend checking one out whenever the world opens up again.
Yeah, that I like put that on the list, right? I mean, there's like so many things I want to go back to, like Photo Plus and Imaging USA and Society for Photographic Education conferences. I used to love those. Really hoping that those do resume one day. All of these things.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's been weird not being able to see all my friends and stuff.
yeah, it's been pretty weird. Um, yeah, here too, and like even me going back home at Christmas, I got a COVID test before I left to drive there. Then I quarantined when I got there and got another COVID test. And, you know, just to like try to make absolutely certain. And it's like, wearing a mask around my family really all the time. Um, thankfully both of my parents are fully vaccinated now. But um, yeah, it's been a weird over a year now. It's been very strange. And it's also been really tricky for me because the body of work I've been most focused on for years now, I guess about over 6 years now, is photographing my parents.
Mhm.
Um, they're usually fairly vulnerable up close portraits with wider angle lenses on view cameras. They're social distancing be damned, right? I mean, it's like you're not going to be 6+ feet away. I'm going to be usually within 3 or 4 feet of my parents. So that made that super tricky. Um, but I just got longer lenses. We started taking more portraits outside. I would wear a mask, usually be 12 or 15 feet away with a mask on, and that felt better. But you can see this change in my work because of that.
Yeah.
Um, and now I'm not sure if I'm going to keep working that way or go back wider and closer. But it's just interesting how it literally has affected everything, down to the smallest detail.
Yeah, I shot with a really large, like long lens on my 4x5 for the first time today. I did like a distance portrait for a friend in a park, and I the last time I was in 2019, I bought a 210 millimeter Schneider off of Armand at the Denton Camera Exchange, and I tried to fuck around with it a few times before on my Wista,
Yeah,
but like I didn't have enough like there wasn't.
rail extension.
Yeah, well,
Hmm.
so I've had the Wista for a while, and I didn't realize until like 2 weeks ago that it did have a rail extension in it.
Okay.
And so I was just like, okay, so now it actually can work. So today was the first time I actually successfully took a shot with the 210, but it was really strange to be like 20 feet away from the person that I was shooting because that lens
Yeah.
is so long.
Yeah, 210 is it's actually now, I think because of COVID-19, 210 is my favorite focal length on 4x5. But what I do with mine, there's a portrait I didn't send you. I'll have to send it to you later just so you can see what I'm talking about. But this one portrait of my grandmother where she was about 5 feet from the camera. But my 4x5, I use a Chamonix H1, this guy back here. It compresses within about 2 inches, but it will also go out to 15 inches, 14 and a half inches. So I can almost do a one-to-one magnification, a one-to-one portrait with a 210 lens. And so, yeah, so I like to kind of use these longer lenses to do really up close, super magnified portraits. And because they have such good compression and longer lenses are, at least the ones that I've used, are typically super corrected. Sharpness is insane. They have large image circles, so you can employ a wide range of movements if you need it. And that 210 has become my favorite lens. It's actually about the only lens I even use on my 4x5 now.
Nice. Yeah, like my main lens has usually been the 135 on my 4x5. But the 210, like, you know, after today, I was like, I really want to fuck with this thing a bit more. Like, it was pretty cool, like, finally figuring out how to actually use it on my camera.
Right.
I felt like a total noob when I'm like, what does this little lever do? And I'm like, holy shit, it's a rail extension.
That's pretty great. That is pretty great. I will say, if you really like 210, even though it feels like it's a mile long on 4x5, I'd encourage you to try a 300 sometime.
Well, I'll probably end up getting a 300 at some point when I go 8x10, and then like it's something that I could switch onto plate so I could use it on the 4x5 and use it on the 8x10.
Well, I do that with my 300, and a lot of people would tell you to go with like a Nikkor 300M. That's the f9. I think it's a Copa 1, and that's great, but I think f9 is just too slow. You know, if you're focusing or you're trying to do an available light portrait, sometimes you need to be able to open to 5.6, but in exchange, you're going to be in a Copal 3 shutter. It's going to be a huge piece of glass, really heavy. But I have a Schneider Simar S 300 5.6, and it's on a Linhof plate. So I can put it on my 4x5, I can put it on my 8x10, and it's pretty great because of that adaptability. And that's like a $400 or $500 lens, which as far as 8x10 lenses go, it's pretty cheap.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, most of what I sent you was made with that lens.
Now is it a Schneider 300?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, and I have a 210 as well that I use more and more. But you know, again, that kind of got stomped on by COVID because 210 on 8x10 is fairly wide. So you have to be pretty close for a portrait, which I usually love to do, but
not so much in COVID.
No, but that'll resume at some point.
Hopefully. I have a 75 mil for my 4x5 that I've like tried to use a few times, but it's so damn wide.
Almost all of my portraits of my parents, the first 2 years I was shooting, was with a 75 on 4x5.
Holy shit.
Yeah, when I say
right up on him.
Oh yeah, when I say wide portraits where I'm like literally in your face, there's a real interesting dialogue that goes on when you have this big, weird-looking camera. It's really disarming in a way. But, you know, like the first couple times I photographed my parents with it, they thought it was weird or whatever, and what is this thing? And then like 2 years later, we're still doing it, and they don't even acknowledge the camera. Like if it's in their kitchen or in the living room or something, they'll know it's there because it's always there. Anytime I'm home, there's a 4x5 or an 8x10 set up in a common area where I can grab it if I see something. And I've just gotten so used to it. But it was, again, it was just so weird switching, because I used to, like I said, used to use a 75. So I went from a 75 to a 210 on
That's a
4x5. Huge. The work feels totally different. But I kind of like it more in a weird way. So now it's like, 3 years of really just using a 75, occasionally a 90. And now let me triple that and switch to a 210 and occasionally a 300.
Dave just joined us here, and he says, I find people are more open to portrait with his 4x5. Try asking someone to take a portrait with an iPhone and it'll be weird, but somehow it's
true.
not large format.
Yeah, absolutely. 110 XL on 8x10, that's a killer suggestion. The widest lens I have a Nikkor 120 SW, which is pretty cool. And Dave as well, 210 as a portrait lens on 4x5. Absolutely. I mean, the compression, the background separation you can get wide open or even slightly stopped down because of it being a longer focal length. Is really, there's nothing else like it. And then to your point as well, Dave, about people are almost intrigued, or even I found it's flattering to ask to make someone's portrait with a large format camera. But I have this rule of thumb now when I'm out shooting, even during COVID. I've taken my 8x10 several places. I think I sent you one of these photos as well, actually. Not certain. But if someone walks up to me out in public and I have the 8x10 set up and I'm making portraits and they ask questions, they're usually just always really intrigued. My kind of go-to rule now is, as long as I feel like they're going to be remotely okay with it, I ask to make their portrait. Like, if you find it intriguing, let's continue with that intrigue. I've got some film holders here. Yeah, and like this one day, I had to make that decision because this incredible person walks up, and the light's great, and all I had loaded was Portra 400. I think I spent $100 on film photographing a complete stranger. But they were some of my favorite photos. Yeah, these cameras just, they spur conversation, and people flock to, in particular, the 8x10. If you just set it up on a beach or something, and it's hard to even do that now if you're trying to do work where you're not going to be bothered by somebody, because somebody's going to say something in the age of everything being an iPhone.
It's true, yeah. And like everyone I've talked to so far that's like made it into the 8x10 realm, like, speaks such greatness of it. Like I had Jason Kummerfeld, aka Grainy Days, on recently, and like,
Yeah,
he's a recent convert to the 8x10 cult, and seems
awesome.
to really enjoy it. And like, that was his videos kind of made me want to shoot 8x10 even more, because I was like, fuck, this thing is amazing, and I want to shit my pants when I push the shutter too.
Oh gosh, that's great. Brian, your question there, does the money stop you from shooting? Does the cost stop you from shooting film? For me, not so much. I mean, it used to, but like, what I mean by that is, like, I've gotten to the point where I'll just not go out to dinner really at all, and I don't buy expensive like coffees every day, and I've been wearing the same pair of boots for like 8 years and the same flannels for a decade. Like, I am really tight in certain areas where I can buy 100 sheets of color large format film and not feel it as badly. But and some people are really blessed, and they can kind of have their cake and eat it too, and that's awesome. But other people, you just have to like pick and choose what you're going to do. And for me, I love this workflow so much. And yeah, like $20+ for a sheet of film seems like this unfathomable, unimaginable sum of money. Um, but yeah, it's absolutely, to me, it's worth every penny. Not always. Like you should process film sometimes thinking, oh, this is gonna be so cool, and then you're like, oh, that was shit, and there's $22, and I could have like had a couple meals with that money. But to be clear, I don't go without eating, but I do, just avoid certain things and try to make sure that I never go without having several boxes of film on hand.
That's a good way to go about it. Dave made an interesting thing here. He's like, it shouldn't really be a cost thing because people spend easily 4,000 on digital setups, but film is pay as you go, and that's what he finds intriguing about film is the pay as you go aspect.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Which I could kind of see, like, I mean, you are going to spend probably a couple grand on an 8x10 setup easily, but then you only have to do that once. It's like you never have to upgrade that 8x10 rig like a digital where it's just like something newer and better comes out. So now you have to like go spend another like 3 to 5 grand and buy like that next fancy digital or whatever.
Yeah, it's true, but then you have people like me who, and I don't think I'm unique in this, but it's like, yeah, the technology for film isn't really improving at this point, but there's still so many things that I want to try. And
Fair.
with the incredible like interest in large format photography now, it's everything's just gotten so much more expensive. Like there's a couple of really long focal length lenses that I want to try for the 8x10, but you're conservatively like one of them I was looking at. It's like a $8,000 or $10,000 lens.
That's like Leica territory.
Yeah. So I won't be buying it, but it's like, so yeah, I think getting into film and building a setup is affordable, and then yeah, you do pay as you go. But another thing that I'd say to Dave's comment is like in the digital world, you really I think end up spending more money because
Yeah.
it's not just the upfront cost that's more, but digital gear depreciates so quickly. And Sony is like Apple, every year they're announcing a new replacement to their A7.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, it's
Alan says careful now in the like comment.
oh, I mean, hey, to each his own.
Much
Like
love there, Alan.
I just sent my M3 off to get a CLA.
I'm,
But
I'm not gonna lie, the Zorky makes me really want a fucking Leica in a bad way now because I went and shot a roll through it and I was just like, huh, I kind of I can see why people like these now.
well, yeah, and I'll say like I got my M3 before this most recent wave of Leica craze, and I think I got my M3 for like $600, $500, something very affordable. And now I was looking, they're like 2 grand for really, really clean ones, maybe 1,500 if you're lucky. But if if I hadn't gotten it when I did, I probably wouldn't buy one. Just because I think of how much film that is for 8x10.
It's a lot of film. Like I missed out on an M4P with a Summicron, like 50 mil Summicron, I think it was, 2 years ago for 900 Canadian.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I missed it by like 2 minutes. The guy was like, "I literally just sold it," and I was like, "Son of a bitch."
Yeah, that's tough. I
That
I
was
remember in 2014, I guess it was, I bought a Leica for the first time. I bought an M6 Classic and a 50 Summicron V4. The guy wanted like $1,250 for it. And now that would be like a $4,500.
easily. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe more. Yeah. I mean, it's just, Yeah. I guess the market decides what things are worth, but um, yeah. And if Alan's listening or still watching, I'm still hoping that Leica comes out with a budget M film body. Um, no, I've said that a few times now.
A
I don't
boy
think
can
I'm the
dream.
only
Yeah.
one. Yeah,
No,
boy can dream.
I think it came up too when I was having the chat with Alan because I talked to him earlier this year on the program, and the budget came up, and yeah, I mean the only red dot that I own that I could afford was the Leica Instax Mini.
Oh, that's so good. I love that.
Yeah,
Oh my
so
gosh.
as long if I do some sort of like show with it or something, I could potentially be in one of the Leica galleries because it is technically a Leica. So, maybe one day
Hey,
an Instax Mini thing.
it's a Leica. It is. That's so funny. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I guess there's so much gear craze out there, and really, it's most important that you're just if collecting cameras and all that is what you're passionate about, great. But then also, if you're trying to make photographs, hopefully, you just find a tool that lets you do that, and you just make work. That's awesome.
Well, yeah,
What is
what's
that
that?
an F5? What is
Yeah,
that?
this is an F5, yeah. So
Killer.
this is Woodrow. Um, he's my main camera, and that's because he's named after Woody Guthrie, so that's like my tribute to Woody Guthrie. Um,
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I agree with you on that one. Is like, too many people get obsessed with like the whole gear thing, and like I see it on like the Facebook forums and stuff. People are like, what's the best like camera to buy? I'm just getting started, and it's like whatever you can afford. Like, just get something
Yeah.
and just go shoot. Like,
I
yeah,
mean, hell, even buy a disposable.
yeah, yeah,
Really. I mean, like, even like an HP5 disposable or something. Like, how cool is that? I mean, sometimes the greatest thing is not having any choice in how that photograph's going to come out. Just,
Well, yeah, like one of my favorite cameras that I like shooting the most right now is the Lomography reusable camera. Like,
hmm
so cheap and chintzy, but I love the images out of it. Like,
Yeah.
I've put a couple rolls of Cinestill 800 through it, which felt weird too.
That's great.
But it
Oh
was
gosh.
cool, like because it exposes at 400, so it overexposed the hell out of like the 800. But the results of it were like really cool because like I just used it for doing like daytime street photography because it's so quiet, so you just kind of like wind it up and just as you're walking, like just fire off shots, and it was pretty cool for that. So I agree, like disposables are a fantastic one. But Dave had a question here. What about images themselves? Isn't it the film stock and the lens at the end of the day?
Yeah. No, I think that's really true. In fact, it kind of speaks to um, a message thread I had with a guy here on Instagram recently. He just I got a message one day, kind of out of the blue, asking what lens I used for this portrait, and I mean, I answered the question, but then I also delivered this aside about like um, for me, yeah, I mean, all of the decisions are important. The camera, the film, whether or not you used any supplemental light modifiers or added flash, what lens you use. I mean, all these things matter, but at the same time, it's like I hope that when somebody looks at, a portrait, whether it's mine or somebody else's, their first question isn't what lens was used, right? It's like, why did they make this portrait? Or maybe they're thinking, why did they choose to include this part of the person and not the other? Or what's the expression, like what's happening in this photograph, not what the hell lens did they use.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't think about that when I look at pictures. Like, what what I like when I see a photo that's like a great photo to me, it's
Hmm.
something that made me feel something, or like, it just like kind of like hits you and you're just like, holy shit, like just something mind blowing about that image, or
Yeah.
something, like you connect to emotionally or something. Uh,
Yeah.
cheers, Brian. Thanks for stopping in. Like
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out.
one of the photos that really still blows my mind, um, was one that I saw in Tulsa at the Philbrook. Larry Clark had a show there
Mm.
uh, in 2019, and there's like this one photo of his that it's one of the most like striking images I've ever seen. It's a pregnant woman sitting in a chair. It's black and white, and there's just this like beautiful light, and like it's just she almost looks like angelic, and you're just like really struck by like the beauty of like the image, and then you realize that she's injecting heroin,
Mm.
and you're just like, it just kind
Mm.
of, because that's not the first thing you notice. Like at first you just notice this like beauty of the light and this like silhouette of like this pregnant woman, and then you see like the needle in her arm, and like that was a great photo to me because it just so much feels to it, and it's just like,
Right.
yeah, like those are the kind of photos that I find that I'm really drawn to, like, something that like pulls you into it, and you're just like really trying to like, you get kind of like immersed in the moment that someone shot there. um it was really interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. There have been a few photos that have really stood out to me over the years, and um, early on, and now even again recently, it's been the work of two very different photographers. And if you shoot 8x10, they're pretty obvious, but Richard Avedon and Joel Meyerowitz, you know, I, I remember seeing certain still lifes and landscapes and portraits in a book called Cape Light by Joel Meyerowitz about 6 years ago. And that just, that is what made me decide. It's like, okay, um, I want my camera and my love for photography to take me to places and to light and to people like this. And you get there by connections, you get there by having conversations like this, engaging in dialogue,
Yeah,
um, about the subject, about arts, culture, traveling, more so than you would by talking about gear all the time.
absolutely. Like someone makes a comment here, like no one asked Robert Frank what camera, lens, or film he used.
They
And
sure as hell don't.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like when I was looking at Larry Clark's work, or like, one of my favorite photographers, Jason Lee. Like when I look at his work, or like, when I look at Deanna Templeton's work, just anyone, I'm not like, what lens did they?
Yeah, what?
What film was this? Because it's like, oh, if it wasn't like some obscure film, I'm gonna be like, oh well, this is garbage. Then it would have been a great photo if you used like this kind of thing there. Um, yeah, like I really don't give a shit about that, because it's just, does the photo have like some kind of like life to it, or like something interesting where like you're drawn into it, because like that's the difference
Yep.
between like a good photo and a great photo. I think is like someone could take a really like technically good photo that like, exposure is perfect, and like, all this stuff is right, but it could be like sterile and kind of like boring, where someone could like, take another photo that,
Absolutely.
isn't technically perfect or anything, but it has like so much emotion that when you look at it, you're like drawn into it. Like those are beautiful photos to me.
I agree entirely. And I was going to say, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what your name is. Sorry. But I was going to say, Cape Light, like when I saw this photograph for the first time, it's like just clothes and sheets blowing in the wind. Yeah, it like hit me like a brick wall. Like that is, there's just so much warmth and vitality in the scene. This whole book is just full of It's an epic collection. The sequencing is incredible. The use of color is some of the best I've ever seen. And this is a killer book. So anyone watching, if you haven't heard of Cape Light, strongly recommend it. I got this one at McKay's for like $4. And then another one from Joel that I love. It's a book called Redheads. And
Oh,
it's just, 8x10 portrait work of redheads. And here's Joel with his 8x10.
that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is a photographer that has spoken to me, like, just some of those images in so many ways over the years. Recently, Aperture put out another collection of his work from, I guess, Provincetown up in Cape Cod, and it was a lot of money for a book, and at the same time, as soon as it was available for order, I found a way to buy it because you kind of find those people that speak to you, and I think that's an important part of being a photographer too, though. Is like there's an incredible thing about being able to be on the internet and see what work other people are sharing and posting, and that's awesome. But also, hopefully when COVID's done with, going to galleries and going to conferences and, trying to shop around and look at photo books,
Yeah.
attend an artist lecture. There's so much more to the world of film photography or just photography in general. I could give a damn less whether it's film or digital as long as it says something.
Exactly, because it's all just a tool at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I love film and I'm going to shoot film, but at the end of the day, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I just, there's something really special about finding a few photographers you really, really love, the work really speaks to you, and pursuing that work. And I even went to Provincetown in 2017. I took Cape Light with me because I was just on a quest. It's like I've got to go up here and see what this light is all about, and just spend a few days in this place where my favorite work was made. And I didn't want to come back, but I
I kind
did.
of feel that way about like Texas and the Midwest. So like on the grams, I saw like all these like beautiful photos from like the Midwest and Texas and stuff, where just the light, it just looks so cool. And I was like, how do they do that? Like, how do you get the photo to look like that? And
Right.
you just have to be there. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, you just have to like be in that light. And
Yeah,
yeah, like
absolutely.
road trips through like the Midwest were super cool. And I'm just like impatiently waiting for the border to open again because just been talking to Armand about doing like a Texas to LA road trip and
Oh, yeah.
like Marfa and stuff because I've always wanted to see Marfa and there's just a
Yeah.
bunch of shit that I'd love to see like along that route.
Well,
So
if you do Texas to LA, I'm about an hour north of LA, Negative Supply is, so you'll have to come visit.
definitely we'll make a stop out of it. Like
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I was going to say, I don't have a ton of time left this
that's
evening
fair.
just because I've got a few more things to do here at the office. But um, I did want to say I saw a few comments here from Dave about the importance of printing work, and that really speaks to me because the reason why I started shooting 4x5 color film was because of the RA4 color darkroom process. All of the early work of my parents is 4x5 color negative, printed 16 by 20 in the color darkroom, and then
Damn.
hand cut window mats 20 by 24 inches. So if I could print everything that way, I would. I don't have access to a darkroom right now, but I've started kind of figuring out the steps to have my own up to 8x10 RA4 darkroom because that's what I want. Dave, I love your comments. Oh my God.
Dave's very
Uh,
excited about this.
yeah, I couldn't tell.
You
That's
might
great.
have a wild Dave showing up to use your dark room at some time.
That's great. I would love to meet you, Dave. In fact, I think I owe you a text message. But yeah, no. But no, printing your work is there's such value, there's such beauty in it, and black and white too. I mean, I loved the biggest I printed silver gelatin is 20 by 24, but and that's hard as hell to do because the lens is way up at the ceiling and I'm like 5'7", so I'm like on a step ladder trying to change things and about to fall and break my neck.
That's
And then
great.
you're oscillating and agitating these huge trays with like 8 liters of chemistry in them. But no, seriously, printing your work, there's probably nothing better.
Yeah, I don't
um,
disagree. Like, it's important to like, do some prints of your work and just like if you're shooting digital or even if you're shooting film and just getting scans, like,
mhm.
order some prints like next time you drop your film off. Just like, get them to
Yeah,
make prints of it.
yeah,
Uh, like
absolutely.
that's why I love shooting Polaroid is like,
Hmm.
an instant print and something that's immediately tangible, which is kind of
Yeah,
fun.
there's a lot of beauty in that. In fact, I think some of my recent work, I'm probably going to have Mark at Northeast Photographic do some archival, just digital pigment prints, uh, which isn't the same. And I hate when people try to say that it is or is close to it because it's not. But archival pigment prints are awesome. They're just different, and so I'm going to be pretty excited to just see more work. Um, you know, 8 by 10s probably. I'll go something in the realm of like a 20 by 24, and from a really good scan, and we'll
Oh,
see how it goes.
never mind. Someone asked earlier, and I totally spaced on because we were talking about other stuff. Can you do 8 by 10 Polaroid scans with a negative supply scanner?
Yes, you can. You can use the 8 by 10 film holder for 8 by 10 Polaroid. The max scanning area of our holder is 8.75 by 10.75, which is enough of an area to get the Polaroid rebate. We
Okay,
actually have a couple people that bought it explicitly to scan 8 by 10 Polaroids.
nice.
So it does work out that way. I will say our 8 by 10 film holder is like on perpetual back order, and um, it has so many machine parts. It's a great tool, but if anyone's interested in that, I would encourage them to message me, and I can try and let you know about lead times. We don't even have it available for order right now
Okay.
because it was very popular very quickly, and I think we're essentially out of them at the moment.
I
So
might have to hit you up about that once I get into the wild world of 8 by 10.
give me a call. Yeah, happy to help.
You got it.
Yeah, but and there are other good ways to scan 8 by 10 film. I mean, I don't want people to think I have to go spend X number of dollars with these guys, but um, I do think we're one of the few organizations out there right now innovating and creating new scanning solutions for 4 by 5 and 8 by 10 that are part of a complete system that really works to revolutionize the way you scan film. Um,
Dig it. Dave says here he's going to go skate before the sun sets, but you should hit
do
him up
it.
because he wants to take a portrait of you for his photographic portrait of photographer series.
Yes.
You might have to make a trip up to the Bay Area.
I'm already planning on it. I want to go up to Point Reyes and San Rafael and all that. So you got it, Dave. I owe you a text. So enjoy your skating and we'll catch up soon.
If you end up out there, you got to stop by Sam's Chowder House in Half Moon Bay and
Oh,
go have some chowder there.
I'm already excited about that.
Yeah, it's
That
it's
sounds
really
great.
cool. Half Moon Bay is a really it's a nice drive too. Like, you can take the back road to Palo Alto, and you go through like a bit of the rolling hills and stuff, and it's beautiful
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, I've only been up that way a couple times, never really spent any time, but I'll have to course correct and fix that.
Yeah, and if you end up
Um,
hit up Brian Brooks. He can show you around. And he'll probably give you a tour of the Underdog Lab.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, I honestly, whenever I know I'm going to go up there, I'm going to try and make like 4 or 5 days of it and just probably take my tent and my truck and camp along the way and find some cool places to hang out and hopefully some cool people to grab a beer with or shoot some film. So,
It's amazing. Well, I appreciate you spending some time with me here on the chat,
of
and
course,
it's always fun to do these things. If you know anyone else or if anyone wants to be part of it, feel free to like send me a message. I'm still always actively looking for more people. Next week, I'm going to have a pal of mine, an old Instagram pal, Monica from Vancouver. She's going to be on, and that should be a really interesting talk to you. She helps co-manage a studio space in Vancouver there. So,
awesome.
thanks for your time, and thanks
Of
everyone for
course.
tuning in. And stay safe out there. And we'll see you next week.
All right. We'll see you soon. Thanks again.
Cheers, man. No problem. Thank you.
Have a good
All
one.
right. Thanks, everyone.